Good morning, everyone. I'm Shota Deoloshegun. In today's video, I want us to actually go through the analytical review of, one of my poems. So now the title of the poem is "Who Am I?" So it's a question. So we're going to actually we're going to try to get the meaning of the poem. Then we're going to go through the form, which is the structural form of the poem. Then we're going to get the tone of the poem, and then well, I think those are the things we're going to use. So we're going to analyze the whole poem. So it's good to actually hear from the actual person that the actual writer of the poem. So the poem is written by Shotade Olusegun, and you already know that the author, like the same author of the poem, is the one that is actually giving you the analysis of the poem. So you are going to really get the full picture of what the poem is all about. Well, there's something I like about writing poem. Poem is more or less like having a compressed form of something that is more advanced than what is what you are able to see, more advanced than the its visibility. So we're going to actually unpack the entitle of the poem for you to really understand. And another thing I like poem for is that it builds your what is it called, intuition arising. So it's something that will make you to think wide. Poem will empower you to think wide, and that is why I like writing poem. So being a scientist as well, this ability of writing poem has really helped me a lot, and so I will talk more on that, on how poem writing can actually boost your imagination power and intuition power for you to actually be for you to be able to dissect things more than the original, I mean, more than the ordinary viewpoint, or point view rather. Okay, so that is that. So now let's start with the poem. Well, the title of the poem we're dissecting this morning is "Who Am I?", written by Shotade Olusegun, and by God's grace, this is the actual author, Shotade Olusegun, giving you the analytical review of the poem. So now, well, we're going to start with the meaning. I want us to really get the full meaning, but before we do that, I'm going to actually read the whole poem for us. So the poem: the past is not deprived of its events, resting in the bosom of bygone valley, carved in rigid love, craftily decent, like the gulp graciously landing at seaports of belly. While the future eludes not the bell, with whom it has had murmur in hallucination of seducing hands, tender in caressing its belly for commensurate rewards in anticipation. Meanwhile, I'm like a hand of time, progressively sitting in the middle of the counted and uncounted minds, maverick confronted with seasoned dribble. When will I stop my heels from accelerating in cycle? The weary marathon is recycled such that it leaves considerable intervals yet to be circled. Even though I always thread forward in retrogressive circle. No counting is of the old, till I grow old in the cold, shrouded in a coat, as I repeatedly quote, who am I? So now that is the poem. So we're going to actually, let's start with the form. Well, the rhyme scheme, we have it in form of GAHA. So what I'm trying to say is that valley, belly, AA, the rhyme. And so here we do not really have rhyme as such, but we have we have the AD. So hallucination with anticipation, that is the rhyme pattern. And then, so here we have another rhyme where we have CC, which is middle, dribble. And then here we have another rhyme. We have a cycle, then we have a circle. You understand? We have that, and then we have recycled, then we have circled. So that is that. And here we have another rhyme, which is old, then cold. So that is the rhyme pattern for the poem. Then the form, the structure, we have the poem. We have the poem in quatrains. So we have 5 quatrains of the poem. So this is 1 quatrain, 4 lines. Then this another quatrain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 quatrains. So now let's quickly get the meaning of the poem before we, dive into the literary device of the, or literary devices of the poem. So now the first paragraph, or the first quatrain, let me say the first quatrain. The past is not deprived of its events, resting in the bosom of bygone valley, carved in rigid love craftily decent, like the gulp graciously landing at sea, port of belly. Okay, so now what we have here is that, then by reading this first quatrain, you can see that we have what is known as enjambment. Enjambment is when the sentence is more than a single line. So when you have continuation of the sentence in another lines, that is enjambment. And you can see that here, the past is not deprived of its event, resting in the bosom of bygone. You can see that it continues and then it stops here. So now that quatrain, the first quatrain, is actually describing the past. So it's actually describing the passing of time. So it concentrates more on the past. So it's describing the past. So it's actually giving the imagery of elapsing of time. And so here you can see that is being carved like it's being carved in the imagery of consumption. You understand? So here you can see that resting, you see that past event is being given attribute of human nature. You understand? By saying resting. You understand? Then in the bosom of bygone, like something laying down on something comfortably. You understand? Then carved in rigid love, cryptly decent. And that is actually describing the beauty of the past event as something that we can actually, get connected to, something that is being stored as, history. And then this last part is now talking about, this is where we now have the imagery of the consumption, where we have like the gulp. Gulp is something that is being like a soft substance of food. That is gulp right there. Graciously landing at seaport of belly. So that gives the image of somebody consuming something. So that is to say that the events as they are coming, they are being consumed by the, past phenomena, like the past phenomenon. You understand? So then let's go to the second quatrain. Why the future eludes not the bell, with whom it has had memory in hallucination of seducing ants, tender in caressing its belly for commensurate rewards in anticipation. Now, this part is describing the future. Well, it is describing the future as something that has been in existence but yet experienced. So now we see that we have it more like something that it's like something in existence. But another thing here is that it gives the imagery of this particular portion gives imagery of romance. You understand? It's more or less like the future is, flirting with unknown beautiful young lady. You understand? So basically it gives imagery of romance, and now we can see that by having the commensurate rewards in anticipation is telling us that the future is something that it's something that is yet to be experienced, even though we have carved it as something that has been in existence. So anyway, that you can see that the poem is so deep in that sense, because basically what we are saying is that the past and the future, they are already in existence at the same time, but future is something that is something that we are yet to have access to. Then the third quatrain, meanwhile I'm like a hand of time, progressively sitting in the middle of the counted and uncounted mind, Maverick confronted with seasoned dribble. Now, this part is giving us imagery of something that is being imprisoned, or more imagery of delusion. You understand? Because the person is more or less being constrained within, the counted and uncounted minds. You understand? So this part is referring to the present phenomena, is referring to a present phenomenon. So basically, but the delusion we have there is that the the person or the thing we're describing is in between the counted and uncounted. Yet that particular thing or the person is still delusional about its position or its position, as the case may be. You understand? So that is what this part is telling us. So Maverick confronted with seasoned dribble. So it's a kind of something that is somehow elusive. You understand? The person can't really understand its position in between that counted and uncounted minds. So the poem is all about searching for a real identity. So it's more or less like a question to know who we truly are. You understand? And so the writer is still not able to understand his real identity in the poem. So now we go to the fourth quatrain. When will I stop my ears from accelerating in cycle? It's a question. It's a rhetorical question. It's a kind of question that you don't have to reply to. So the weary marathon is recycled such that it leaves considerable intervals yet to be circled, even though I always tread forward in retrogressive circle. So now this is now giving us the picture of like a wall clock. Wall clock, reads time forward and backward in circle like that. But basically the counting is unique, even though it's keep on recycling recycling like that. So the counting is unique, and at the same time, even though we have the counting there, we still have some intervals that are yet to be counted. So that is pointing to the, future phenomenon of, events in the futures that, events in the future that are yet to be experienced. You understand? So the counted, just like we have in this quatrain, that counted, refers to the past event, the ones that are being counted, while the uncounted are the events of the future that are yet to be experienced. So now that is what that is all about. So the considerable intervals yet to be circled is referring to the events of the future that are yet to be experienced. So now we have the last quatrain now. No counting is of the old, till I grow old in the cold, shrouded in a coat as I repeatedly quote, who am I? Now, what this is telling us is that this is still referring to the, to that imagery of the wall clock, where we have the counting clockwise and we have the counting clockwise. It repeats like that, but the counting is unique. That is what this is telling us. Now you can see that the writer, is in a kind of is in a kind of depression, because the code signifies, the agony of the writer. The depression is actually going through. Probably it could be as a result of not being able to know his real identity, even towards the end of the poem. You understand? So that is what this part is telling us. So now the question still remains as it was from the beginning. Who am I? Because the writer is still yet to understand his real identity in the universe. You understand? But this is more or less like, I would say it's more or less like monologue, something like the writer it's more or less like something, should I say soliloquy. The writer was actually, meditating on some things in order to, prefer answers to some, natural question, like basically, the question that one would always ask himself in the universe, like, what is our position in the universe? Who am I for real? Like, we keep on asking this question because we still don't know who we are. So basically, the thing is that we are always conscious of, actions we take, and that makes us to really have the feeling of being alive, just to be aware of our environment. And so with that, we can say, yes, we are somebody. You understand? So now the consciousness we have may just be within the dimension in which we operate. But basically, we know that we are connected to more higher dimensions, where we'll be able to explore more capabilities of ourselves, like of our beings. You understand? So we know that we are more than what we are currently are. And that is why we usually have this kind of question, which is, who am I? So basically, let me give you an instance. When we dream, in the dream, as a human being, you may have some capabilities that are not the normal capabilities that you can actually exercise as normal human being. In the dream, you could say that you can just fly, do some things that you cannot ordinarily do as human beings. So that tells us that we are more than what we are currently are. You understand? So that is why we usually come up with that kind of question, which is, who am I? And that is what the writer of the poem is. That is what the writer of the poem is trying to, provide answer to. And so at the end of the poem, yet the writer could still not get answer to it. But at least he tried. You understand? So there are still some things that I will talk in respect of that later. But now, before we go to the final part, I want us to go through the literary devices of the poem. So now let's get back to it. So now we have enjambment. You know what the enjambment is? Like having your idea or the thought to be more than a single line. So quatrain, quatrain. We have 5 quatrains. The arrangement of the poem in 4 lines, sections like that. So now we have in this first quatrain, we have personification. We have personification of past events, having the attributes of human nature. You understand? Then imagery of consumption slash elapsing. So in this first quatrain, we have that imagery of somebody consuming something, and then elapsing, which is the passage of time. Then by having like the gulp graciously landing, which is what we have, like we have simile. And then here we have imagery of romantic mood. So which is while the future eludes the belle, with whom it has had murmur in hallucination of seducing ants, tender in caressing its belly, for commensurate reward in anticipation. So you can see that romantic mood in this particular quatrain. And so here we have imagery of imprisonment and delusion. Delusion, like the person is being constrained within the counted and uncounted minds, you understand? And the delusion of it is being confronted with seasoned dribble. That is, the nature is dribbling the writer in such a way that the writer could not even understand his position in the universe, you understand? And then we have simile. Simile in the sense that we have like a hand of time. So the writer is being compared to the counter of time. And so rhetorical question, which is the first question we have here. And finally here we have imagery of intense labor without result. Intense labor without result. That is the counting in circle. The counting of time in circle, which is continually repeated, and it's more or less like something that will not end. So that is what we have there. Then what is the diction of this poem? The diction of the poem is picturesque and simple. Picturesque in the sense that you see that in the poem we have imagery of romantic mood, of imprisonment and delusion. We have imagery of intense labor without result. Then we have, you understand? So we usually use that imagery device of literature to convey message, to convey the message in this poem. And so the poem is simple. So it's not that we have a scholarly diction in the poem as such. So the poem is simple. I think the only place where we have scholarly inclusion would be retrogressive. Then let me see another one. Progressively, graciously. So there are a couple of scholarly diction anyways, but the title of the poem is simple. And so the tone of the poem is fanciful in the sense that the writer is so fanciful of the event, the time continuum, the passage of time is so fanciful, and then the awe of the past and the future. The writer is so in awe of the past and the future. And finally, stressful. Yes, the poem tone is stressful in especially in this portion of the poem where the counting is continually done without ending. You understand? So, and then for the fact that the writer is yet to even realize, his true identity in the universe. So that is the stressful part of it. So the theme of the poem is the mystery of time continuum, and it is monologue, and then finally searching of real identity. So that is that about the poem, which is Who Am I? So basically, I will just have to quickly add some things. Now we know what the poem is all about, and there are a couple of things that I really want to add to the poem, like the mood. I wrote this poem when I was downtrodden, like when I was in a tough condition, you understand? So you could imagine what gave rise to the writing of the poem. So you are really getting this kind of information from the original writer of the poem. And another thing is, this poem was written I started before I started conducting research in physics, which is the unification of quantum mechanics to classical mechanics. So right from the research, by developing formula of everything, I was able to understand the nature of the universe more than when this poem was written. And from that, I could say that reality is actually in the present phase, you understand? And from based on that, I was able to know what consciousness is, because by applying formula of everything, I discovered that the trajectory of time is actually beyond the dimension we're operating. So we have connection to higher dimension to get our real self, you understand? So you get to know your real self at any point in time. So it's more or less like continuous and dynamic situation. So we are different person at any given time. So when you are studying, you become a different person. When you are running, you become a different person. So when you take any action, you become a different person. So we continually become different person at any given point in time. So that is why the nature of getting to know who you are is dynamic. And another thing is that there is difference between getting to know who you are in the universe within the visible, what is it called? Visible reality, and then there is another reality which is even beyond the visible reality. You understand? Which is when you get connected to higher dimension, you get to know who you are for real. More than that is where you get more hidden features of yourself that ordinarily in real life you couldn't have get access. You couldn't have got access to, rather. Sorry for that. So that is that. So I believe that this video is quite informative. If you like the video, don't hesitate to smash the like button. Well, this poem, I'm going to put a link to my published book on Amazon, so that if you want to get the full book of the poem, you can get it. So this particular one is Expression, and it is Letters to My Benefactor. Like, subtitle of it is Letters to My Benefactors, but the real title is Expression. You can get that on Amazon to study the poem. And believe me, if you really want to you know impact yourself with outstanding wisdom, you might need to get my poems. It will really help you a lot. And if you happen to be a scientist, you may need to get my poem as well. It will help boost your intuition and imagination. Then another thing is, there is one distinct connection between storytelling and physics science as it is. So I will dive deep into that in my later video. Here, you understand? So please don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel so as to be notified for the subsequent uploads, you understand? And then please help us share this video. We want it to travel as far as wide as possible. God bless you.